Playwright Oscar Wilde once said, "Mere color can speak to the soul in 1,000 different ways." And in a world of visual storytelling, that beautiful statement has never been more true. Color isn't just a small part of our favorite content in movies, but another world of stories and work on its very own. And today we'll be exploring color and the technique of color, specifically color correction and color grading. My name is Christopher, I am the theFitDirector, and this is a new episode of Watch Like a Filmmaker. So today we'll be discussing the great use of color correction and color grading in our favorite films, television, and content. But we have to break it down first. What does color correction and color grading mean? Well, let's start off with color correction. By definition, color correction occurs during a film's post-production phase by a film colorist, done to adjust color, contrast, and the exposure in a shot or sequence. Now, this is partially to appear natural and unprocessed, the way our natural human eye experiences or sees images in real life, but it also assists the viewer by smoothing out the color from shot to shot for a more continuous appearance. And we've talked about this before, but color correction is there to help, and say it with me, serve the story. But how does it do that? Let's dive in. Without a consistent look or consistent color, we as the audience can become distracted. And while focusing on the multiple changes adjusting to what we see, we begin to lose the story or disconnect from the intended emotion of the storyteller. For example, this is a powerful scene in The Greatest Showman, but we lose something without the help of color correction. So even with a little bit of color, they capture our attention and keep us involved in the story. Not convinced yet? Let's look at the same scene again with my adjustments to color, contrast, and exposure and see if we can spot a difference. So what you can see is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, I've enlarged the image that has removed the color. What color? Purple. Now, in this scene, we've seen a lot of red and a lot of blues and a lot of warm tones, and the purple really shouldn't be the focus or isn't the focus. But by removing that purple, it does seem to lose something. We lose a little bit of a value to it. It takes away from the eye. Now, in a weird way, it does also highlight her face. So that's kind of an interesting thing. By removing the color behind her, it does bring more of a focus to her face and the brightness of her face. But at the same time, we do lose something. And if we pause it right here, what I'm talking about, if you haven't caught it yet, is this spot, and that spot right there. Yep. So not even removing a main color of the scene, but just by removing the purple, we have changed the look. Well, let's continue. Because next, saving the best for last, or just moving on to the next topic, is color grading. When you start to look into this stuff, or even Google it, you start to see the question asked a lot of, what is the difference between color correction and color grading? Although color correction and color grading are both there to improve the image or appearance of a shot or sequence in servitude to the story, most times color correction will happen before color grading. Color grading takes it a step further by adjusting various attributes of an image such as contrast, color, saturation, detail, black level, and the white point, just to name a few things. So where color correction and color grading really differ is that color grading is a process of stylizing the color or the scheme of the shots and sequences. To make it a little bit easier, color correction from an editing standpoint typically is to bring everything into reality. You hone it in from raw, typically, which is like a desaturated gray version of the image when shot professionally. From that raw image, you'll bring the colors back. You'll add green to the grass, you'll add tones to the hair, you'll add the exposure when you're dealing with that to the sky. You'll just bring all that back in. So you bring it to real, right? Well, then color grading takes a step in. And now let's say I'm bringing all those colors back in maybe a horror film. Well, let's check out what that kind of color grading might look like. So we've color corrected the image and we have this right here. But like I said, we're going to try this with a little bit of a horror element. So what I might do here is I'm going to suck the warmth from it, make it a little colder, all right? And once I have those cool tones in, and I'm kind of going for that cool tone theme, I'm going to also add in some green, some sickly green hue to it. Now we have this darker, more cold version of what we just saw, and nothing's changed except the color grading. So color grading is actually one of my favorite parts in the coloring process. See, as you saw in that clip, nothing really changed about what I had set up for lighting or anything like that. The color was correct. But once I start changing the tones, I get to add an artistic expression through color to give it a whole different tone, a theme that fits what I'm going for. And that's important. But what if the colorist had the wrong notes? Let's say they didn't know what kind of film they're editing or coloring. So how about this? Just to kind of play around with this, let me show you a clip of a famous film that you've seen.
What?
So that wasn't much of the clip, but you got enough to see about what's going on. I wonder how we can edit that though. Maybe we can add, again, that same horror theme that I just did, adding a little bit more blues and greens.
What?
Did you see it? It'd be hard to miss when done incorrectly. Now, if you're watching the entire film, show, or any of your content, and all of a sudden it were to switch mid from one tone to the next, you definitely notice it. But most time you don't, because great teams make the things we love to watch possible, which I think eventually we're going to have to talk about in a different episode. But let's watch one more clip to get color grading down. Not going to be a very long clip, but just a quick one to kind of get the feel of it before we adjust it. Alright, you got it. Now, let's mess around with the color grading and see what we can come up with. Let me know if you can spot it in the comments below. So it changes the frame entirely when done incorrectly. But that's okay, because great teams are coming together to color correct and color grade our favorite content, film and television shows, so we get to just enjoy it. Hard work, craft, and artistry makes the things we love to watch that much more enjoyable. And that's the end of the video, everybody. My name is Christopher. I am the theFitDirector, and this has been another episode of Watch Like a Filmmaker. Again, in review, we've discussed color correction, color grading, and the importance of color in our favorite films, television, and content. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next week for a new episode of Watch Like a Filmmaker. Bye.